we're establishing cargo flights to Mars that people can count on for cargo. And it's like I said, the Earth-Mars orbital rendezvous is only every 26 months. So there's one in 2018, there'll be another one in 2020. And I think if things go according to plan, we should be able to launch people probably in 2024 with arrival in 2025.
Well, Happy New Year from the International Space Station. Butch Wilmore, Don Pettit. We'll get to go around the planet here every 90 minutes, so we'll get 16 New Year celebrations here on the International Space Station.
You know, we'll start with suborbital flights into space. We're then, dreaming about trying to move on to orbital, and then, dreaming about, looking at maybe having hotels in space one day, dreaming about maybe having intercontinental flights. And if you don't dream, you don't achieve anything. So, from our dreams, we try to inspire our engineers and technicians to make dreams become realities.
Coming to space camp is the closest I can really get to space, at least emotionally and psychologically.
Space camp is a place where you can come and you can just be yourself and be goofy and be funny, while still learning about space.
I ended up here because a friend told me about how cool space camp was.
Here at Space Camp, we learn what it will be like to be an astronaut. All of the simulators here, NASA has been recruited to help design, so they're as close as we can get to what the astronauts actually use.
The people who come here to Space Camp are into science, technology, engineering, math, all those STEM fields.
I believe that the people who come here are the future of the space program.
But military, we're going to reach, and it's my plan. I'll talk to Elon. Elon, get those rocket ships going, because we want to reach Mars before the end of my term. We want to do it. We will lead the world in space. Remember, I did Space Force. I did that. I rebuilt the military. I did a lot. But we have Space Force, first time in 79 years, since Air Force. First time, think of it, Space Force. And now we're leading in space over Russia and China. They were killing us when I took over, and now we're leading. But military, we're going to reach, and it's my plan. I'll talk to Elon. Elon, get those rocket ships going, because we want to reach Mars before the end of my term. We want to do it. And we want to have also great military protection in space, because that's where it's going to be at.
This apparently old-fashioned world of strange hats and quill pens is built on risk and reward. Lloyd's of London will give you odds on anything. They'll even venture into space to make a profit. This week on Enterprise, satellites lost and found. Last February, this satellite, Westar 6, was launched from the shuttle. It was insured for $100 million, and something went wrong. Despite this, the second satellite, Palapa B, was launched 3 days later. It was insured for $75 million. This time, the shuttle crew decided to film the satellite motor as it fired. They centered it in frame and immediately saw a luminous smoke ring. Then the dot of light faded. The motor had died. Instead of a very high circular orbit, both satellites were now in a useless elliptical orbit. They both function, but because they are in the wrong orbit, they can't do their job. They are so much space junk, with a total liability of $180 million. The greatest insurance loss in space.
And while we're on the International Space Station, we're separated from our families, we're separated from our friends, but we have our crew here, and they become our Ersatz family.
Astronauts are really, really good at making pictures in space that look like you've never left the planet. In fact, it's almost hard-pressed to tell whether you're in space or not in this picture. You know, we've got some fancy backdrops, I guess.
Now, one thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
So we'd love to be there with you in Times Square to watch the ball drop. We have our own ball, but since it doesn't drop, it just kind of stays in place. We look forward to midnight Eastern time there in Times Square, and we'll be there virtually with you. So from the International Space Station,
Happy New Year!
Ground control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown, engines on. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
Stop it! No! That's not fair. You know I can't resist that beautiful voice.
Ground control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown. Engines on.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see. I don't remember seeing any.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be.
The biggest visual surprise was just how black the sky was. You have a brilliant sun, brighter than any sun you normally would see even here in New Mexico. You have these extraordinarily high mountains. We were in a valley deeper than the Grand Canyon. But then you have this black sky, a sky blacker than black, as the old Vidicon expression used to be.
When you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine.
And we could not see stars.
Whilst in space, have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Yeah, because you can see, because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah,
you know, and pretty much all the time you can.
Всем собраться в конференц-зале. Всем собраться в конференц-зале, пожалуйста. All hands to the wardroom. All hands to the wardroom, please.
This is the most difficult announcement. As you know, things have not been going well back home. Well, it's gotten worse, a lot worse.
Subversion can be only successful when the initiator, the actor, the agent of subversion has a responsive target. It's a two-way traffic. United States is a receptive target of subversion.
For all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning was the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament
fourth industrial revolution is a combination of technological breakthroughs which will completely change business models, society, economies. Fourth industrial revolution is coming with enormous speed and will change not only what we are doing, but who we are.
This painting, entitled The Madonna with Saint Giovannino, was made sometime during the 1400s. The artist's name is not known, but at first glance you can notice a UFO shape in the sky to the right side of the Madonna. If you were to see the original full-size painting, you would see the object clearly. Looking at the enlargement, you can see a man and his dog standing and looking up at the object. However, this painting has something else being depicted. On the left side of the painting, you see the sun and some vector-like objects seemingly flying from or toward the sun. Perhaps this artist was trying to tell us something. In another painting of the Madonna made by a completely different artist, the unusual patterns of the sun and the vector-like symbols have also been added prominently on the Madonna's cloak. You can see the same symbology on this painting as on the one before.
When I was talking with the gentleman from Belcom and we were discussing the lie, everything he was telling me was different from what we were being told was the truth. And at one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things. We lied about everything. None of it was true. I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes.
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll give you what really amounts to the standard facile cover story for the unilluminated. They'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s, which was the time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, that was formed in 1992, why they chose that same logo.
Let me read the story to you. It's almost too crazy to be true. A janitor turned rocket scientist turned cult member who was also an alleged spy. It's the real life story of Jack Parsons. CBS drama is called Strange Angel. Second season is now here. Bella, you play Mrs. Parsons. What did you know about the life of Jack Parsons before you signed on to this?
I knew nothing of the life of Jack Parsons, and I remember actually when it was first sent to me, I just thought, oh, this is too fantastical, and didn't believe it. And then was told that it was a true story and read it, and just, it kind of blew my mind.
And so he is this incredibly successful and accomplished scientist, but he's also very immersed. Is it fair to call it a sex cult or sex religion? Or?
I mean, that's what I'd call it. Thelema, I would call it a sex cult, whether or not that's okay.
Okay, and for season 2, Mr. and Mrs. invite the cult into your own home.
Yep, as you do.
In Pasadena, no?
As you do. As you do.
As one does.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Come on in.
Okay, and your character sister is involved as well.
Yeah, much to my chagrin, I think, because she, we're just in a bad situation at home with our stepfather, so I invite her in, but she is just trouble, and I'm trying to protect her from the cult because she's my younger sister, but she's, I think I need protection from her more than anything.
Well, there you are. That's a good lead into this clip. Take a look.
I never wanted to be like Virgil, pushing you into a faith you hadn't chosen for yourself. Though it might be more difficult now, I don't want you to feel pressured to participate.
I don't.
Let me put it another way. Until you're ready, you won't be able to participate.
Who gets to decide if I'm ready?
In the meantime, there'll have to be certain ground rules. You're to respect the privacy of all those living here. And during any kind of gathering, you're not to leave your bedroom.
You can't be serious. I thought the whole point of this was to live with less rules, not more.
Uh-oh, she's trouble.
Oh, dear.
Okay, and then
Sassy.
in real life, that character, the sister, went on to marry L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Again, you couldn't make this stuff up.
I know. When I'm like giving people the summary, I'm like, so my husband, he's a janitor, he invents rocket scientists, we get into this sex cult, and then my sister takes off with L. Ron Hubbard and he found Scientology, and everyone's like, what? I'm like, yeah, this happened in the 40s, meanwhile.
Wow. Hello, Beast.
Who's this?
This is my dear friend Martha. This is Alistair Crowley. How do you do?
Eat, drink, be happy. What dancing, Martha?
Not my thing.
What is your thing? Oh, everyone has a thing. My thing is love.
That's not very satanic.
On the contrary, Satan is love. In your heart, you worship Satan just as I do. Every beautiful woman does.
This time, however, there is no UFO object to be seen anywhere in the sky. This footage was taken over Mexico City in 2002. There were many other videos and photographs taken of this same type of object, clearly resembling the shapes as seen on the visor of the astronaut, on the moon, and depicted in the 14th century paintings of the Madonna and Child. There is probably a larger story behind the vectors, but it is very unusual this symbology has been adapted by all the United States and foreign space agencies, especially enemies like Iran.
And while you're at it, you can go ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos for their national space agencies.
One of the things that we tap into here is talking about Hugo Gernsback. The sci-fi fantasy awards are the Hugo Awards. Those are named after Hugo Gernsback, who was a Jewish inventor from Luxembourg, and he coined the term sci-fi or science fiction, and he actually was the founder of a publication called Amazing Stories, started in 1929, and it became the first home for showcasing some of these incredible sci-fi stories and narratives, and for bringing visibility to some of the great sci-fi writers out there.
C. Jews in space!
We're Jews out in space. We're zooming along, protecting the Hebrew race. We're Jews out in space. If trouble appears, we'll put it right back in its place. When Goyim attack us, we'll give them a smack, we'll slap them right back in the face.
It gets even deeper. You can go look at the individual manned program patches for NASA. The Mercury program, for example, a blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts, kind of forgetting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts.
The world will grow more together in the digital age. We are becoming more interdependent. We will have not less, we will have more globalization. But the question is, how do we master and how do we construct this new type of globalization? I call it globalization 4.0. It's a poison for society. We cannot leave people behind. We have to make everything to ensure social cohesion of a society, because social cohesion is the prerequisite for a democratically functioning country.
Inside this plane, men are being specially trained for the space age. They are American astronauts in the same state of weightlessness they'll experience in outer space. A rough, rugged business being an astronaut. These men have to be in top physical condition when they face the countdown. And here's a new way to help keep you in shape for the space age. New Post-Count-Off. Post-Count-Off is made with nutritious oats. You can count on it. Post-Count-Off has exciting space news on every package back. Start your day a little bit better with new Post-Count-Off.
3, 2, 1.
You can count on it.
But yeah, maybe first we need to talk about this giant media machine and the ability that it has to direct the mass formation on almost the turn of a dime.
First came Russia's Sputnik satellite. Then Yuri Gagarin became the first man to orbit the Earth. Soviet space missions reached for the Moon, Mars, Venus. Now you can see the secret spacecraft the Kremlin kept hidden for a generation. Red Star in Orbit, a special exhibition of Soviet spacecraft and art seen outside Russia for the very first time. Now showing exclusively at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Don't miss it.
It carries on to the space shuttle program. If you look at the Apollo logo has a big letter A in it. At least that's what they want you to believe, but it's not. Again, that's just a simple way of explaining away the inclusion of this vector symbology in the logo. If you go to the space shuttle program, the original space shuttle STS program patch is a triangular patch that, again, hides the use of the chevronic vector symbology. And that also goes for many of the STS-specific mission patches. Every single one of the International Space Station expedition patches carry the vector symbology. The Russian Mir space station used the vector symbology. That was their official logo. You can even go deeper and look at military-industrial complex companies. Look at the logo on a company like Lockheed Martin, 2 vectors.
We have Yuri Gagarin, who was the first man to supposedly fly through space, and he went around the globe in an hour and 20 minutes and landed in a field after ejecting out of his spherical space pod spacecraft with tiny windows that he could supposedly look out of. But it wasn't until 1971 that they even admitted that supposedly what really happened, that he ejected out and was found in a field by some farmers and told them that he had to go call Moscow. And then, of course, he dies in a training accident. But even the BBC was seeming to question some of the details of his account, and I'd never seen this until recently either.
While we're talking about the ship in flight, there's one small mystery which I think possibly you may be able to clear up for us, but perhaps not, but I'd like to try. On the day when you were making the flight, on the day when Moscow Radio was describing you making the flight, there appeared in our communist newspaper, the Daily Worker, the report that the flight had been made successfully and that the flyer had returned to the Earth. And that report was dated from Moscow the day before. I'm sorry to put this at such length, but this created the impression, of course, that another flight had taken place and you had flown second, and nobody has ever dispelled this yet. Will you do it now?
Могу совершенно компетентно вам заявить, что, очевидно, корреспонденту этой газеты было известно несколько больше, чем тем людям, которые занимаются в нашей стране непосредственно космическими полетами.
Now, I can assure you quite authoritatively that evidently the correspondent of that paper felt he was better informed than the actual people who are in charge of this work in the Soviet Union.
May I have a question?
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 7, 6, 5. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way.
The X Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, the United States Space Command, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs.
Let's do it. Yes, please.
Thank you.
That's fantastic, Roger, and I'll walk over you. That is great. You stay right there. That's fantastic. Isn't that great? Please get in the picture. That's beautiful.
Mr. President, it will stand in your office alongside the other service flags.
Very, very great honor. It's a great honor. That's a beautiful flag, too. Roger, hold that up so they can see. That's really beautiful. Wow. That's a big day. That's a big day.
All of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to?
And the stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can. Far above the world. Planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can
And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
I don't know.
Nobody in the entire world knows why that falls.
So what is pushing this?
Here. Why does that fall?
Newton didn't know.
We can describe it pretty accurately, but no one knows why.
We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. We can measure it, predict with it.
What's his name? Felix Baumgartner. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump. Now, you know, I don't. That's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he's, wow, he's in space. Look at that. No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
I don't need a computer to get a kid interested in that, to spend a week playing with gravity and trying to understand it and come up with reasons why.
So what is pushing this?
I don't know.
Nobody knows why.
So Newton simply threw his hands up and said, I don't know. So I'm going to invent something called gravitational pull.
The interesting thing when you look back is that basically the whole space race narrative and the Cold War have always just been kind of coupled together since the beginning. And you had World War II that kind of put the whole Soviet space program on pause, and then after it, the United States and Russia divided up all the Nazi rocket scientists and chemical scientists and the proto-MK Ultra guys, all the really fun stuff that the Nazis were doing. Divvied them up, and that just then fueled all this research during the 50s and 60s in all kinds of crazy areas. And so, and the amazing thing to look back and just see how throughout it's this constant like dichotomy of death and destruction, or the potential for death and destruction, just nuclear annihilation. You know, Sputnik flies over, allegedly. Some light in the sky flies over, and something broadcast beeps. And so from that moment on, teach the kids to hide under the desk when the air raid sirens go off, and we're in the nuclear age, and on we go. And then somehow it just keeps flipping back and forth between this great cosmist, transhumanist, reach for the stars kind of message and annihilation and death and everything like that. So the social alchemy that's been going on with all this propaganda and all this media that's been generated, all these launches and stories and news coverages that comprise all this history, so to speak. And no matter what, you look at it all and you can't deny like how propagandistic it all really has been, dealing with war and dealing with essentially globalism and the tension between kind of those two things, like being all intertwined. And so Yuri Bezmenov, of course, is talking about Marxist propaganda and how that is disseminated and used to subvert free societies and things like that. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but you know, I started thinking about like how all the ways in the quote unquote free societies, specifically here in the United States, where we have Hollywood and NASA and New York, and like how much of a lot of the same core messages and the same propaganda has been spread out throughout the world, perhaps in a more creative, openly creative way and diverse way. And just going back to a figure like Arthur C. Clarke, who ostensibly contributed more to, the ideas and thinking that propelled the whole, he's supposedly the first person to think of satellites for communication. So yeah, but it's the same transhumanist message as Cosmism back with Tsiolkovsky, really, at the end, and envisioning sort of the same kind of utopian one world. It's all about we colonize we can't colonize the whole solar system and the galaxy until we've, sort of colonized things down on Earth.
The X Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, the United States Space Command, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs, all of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias.
But speaking of Arthur C. Clarke, another thing that I kind of went back and looked into with all the recent developments was the follow-up to 2001, 2010, the year we make contact, which of course was not directed by Kubrick like the first one, and so basically just kind of gets ignored by by pretty much everybody, and understandably. But I'd never really paid much attention to it, and I think I'd seen it once or parts of it. So I went back and watched some of that, and then read more because I got curious. I'd always been curious about the ending of 2010. And of course, the whole movie is based on the Russians and the Americans being on this joint mission to go investigate the ship from the first movie, which is out by Jupiter. And there's a new obelisk floating there. And back on Earth, everything is falling apart between the United States and the Soviet Union. And they're on the brink of nuclear war. So you have all your kind of weird poltergeisty stuff happen with David Bowman from the first movie coming back, appearing as kind of a space ghost. And one of the amazing parts of the movie is when he actually visits his wife back on Earth, and she's just watching TV, and he appears to her, through the TV screen. And it's basically the whole question of well, is this really David Bowman? Is it? It's super creepy. And he's trying to tell her that something's about to happen, and she, what's going to happen?
Are back again, extreme places I didn't know. I broke everything new again, everything that I'd owned. I threw it out the windows, came along. Extreme waves I know will part the colors of my sea. Perfect color me. Extreme waves that help me out late at night. Extreme places I had gone, but never seen any light. Dirty basements, dirty noise, dirty places coming through. Extreme worlds alone.
Something wonderful. Oh, what is that? Of course. Well, so the monolith goes into Jupiter and starts multiplying and covering the surface of Jupiter with all these monoliths, and then Jupiter kind of transforms and explodes, and everyone on Earth sees it. And then there's two suns at the end of the movie, and they get this message from the obelisk or the aliens or whatever, saying all these worlds are yours except Europa attempts no landing there. And so I'd always been kind of confused, what the heck does Europa have to do with anything, and what is this? Is this supposed to mean something? But if you read I'd never read the books, but if you go read the books, because in the books just explain a lot more even than any of the movies do. But in the third book, it continues on, and you discover that, so Jupiter became a star, and then all the moons around Jupiter became, planets of Jupiter. So it's it's its own solar system. Oh, and the name of the star is Lucifer.
Did you ever like it, man? I would stand in line for this. There's always room in life for this.
All right, Crowley. Let's not waste our breath on formalities.
Once,
Such a lovely boy. What do you want, Crowley? I want your soul, of course. That is, my master wants it. Do it yours. Give me my sister. You're a businessman, Mr. Wayne. You know that saying something doesn't make it so. I'll need a contract. Inked in your blood.
Oh, please spare me this pillage. I don't believe in Satan.
Oh, you're modern, rational, well-educated, a civilized man of peace and moderation. Of course you don't believe in Satan, but that doesn't matter. Satan believes in you. Cutie, it's you he wants. Your spiritual essence, not your company.
Alistair is just a very wise and loving man. A teacher.
In exchange for my sister's liberty, I have to sell... I have to sell my soul to the devil.
Precisely. You get my master's eternal friendship.
You're a smart businessman, Mr. Wayne. Think of that. Think of the power you'll have. I have power now, you fool. I could buy and sell the likes of you.
See now, There's the beast inside of you.
So yeah, orbiting the new Lucifer star is the moon/planet Europa, where the obelisk apparently went down and chose to start the whole process of evolution again. So they didn't want humans going down there and messing it up. And so, yeah, long story short, it's just the same old like ancient aliens and panspermia concept of cosmic evolution. And so in the first movie, David Bowman had his kind of transformative experience. He goes into the monolith and has this big psychedelic thing that lasts forever, and then he becomes the star child, right? So they portray that as the floating fetus, you know, the floating baby in space. But when you look at like the ghost in the TV screen, and then as I read more in the books and stuff, there's other characters who then also become essentially what is, you hear guys like Michio Kaku describe, where, you know, we turn into laser beams, or the aliens, when we meet the aliens, they won't be biological, they'll be AI. You know, they'll be interdimensional quantum memories of beings that are millions of years old and can travel throughout the galaxy. And so essentially that's what he evolved into, was some sort of digital apparition. And then, I don't know, there's like how many books? I think there's like 4 or 5 books, maybe more. After that, I kind of stopped reading on. But yeah, again, this is the guy, you know, who in the early 50s, this is a guy like Tsiolkovsky who wrote some of the most seminal things that were said to spur on, you know, whole generations of real engineers and rocket scientists and satellite manufacturing and all these things.
And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to? And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
And close my world and never open up to anything that could get me at all. I had to close down everything, I had to close down my mind. Too many things caught me, too much could make me blind.
You know, isn't it amazing how, like, in a supposedly, you know, purely materialistic evolutionary universe, these occult themes just, it's like they just can't seem to stay away from it. Towards the end of his life, Arthur C. Clarke was living in Sri Lanka and producing a TV show called, what was it called? Strange Wonders or something? A series called Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, which was all about your typical paranormal, you know, stuff that now it's kind of your typical paranormal fare. And it was like made in the 70s or 80s. But, you know, if you compare like the basic ideology and the worldviews of someone like Arthur C. Clarke, was British and you know, part of the whole Anglo-American free world side of the space race, Iron Curtain. You know, you compare him with somebody like Nikolai Fedorov and Tsiolkovsky, and, you know, what they were all into. It's very interesting. Here's a book I want to get my hands on. The Russian Cosmists by George M. Young. Just the chapter description for the spiritual geography of Russian cosmism. It says this chapter introduces the major themes of Russian cosmism, which include active self-directed human evolution, the need for universal solutions to existential problems, the unity of knowledge and action, religion, art, magic, and science, universal immortality as a human task, and a view of man as a citizen not only of the earth but of the entire cosmos. The major cosmists were polymath thinkers embracing a variety of intellectual disciplines and apparent contradictions. They combined visionary futuristic projects with the defense of traditional culture and institutions. A special feature of cosmism was the attempt to discover scientific equivalents to investigations previously characterized as esoteric or occult. This chapter emphasizes both the Russian and universal character of cosmist thought. So yeah.
Кроме нас в космосе много интеллекта. Это интеллектуальное пространство, это много пространств. Мы частица, и это пространство интеллекта неизвестно, как нас примет или не примет.
I've seen so much in so many places, so many heartaches, so many faces, so many dirty things you couldn't even believe. I would stand in line for this. It's always good in life for this. Oh baby, then it fell apart. It fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart. It fell apart. Oh baby, then it fell apart. It fell apart.
And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to? And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
That is cosmism today. Man inextricably bound up in the universe, whether he travels through it or stays on Earth.
Гениальность или интеллект Циолковского, он открыл этот способ толчка, как проникнуть ракетой в космос. Это одна часть Циолковского. А вторая часть, он рассуждал и видел, куда эта ракета понесет человека. Что значит человеческий интеллект в космосе? Когда человек полетел туда, то я ощущал это в то время, что это мой интеллект пошел в космос и смотрит на планету Земля сверху, как Бог.
But speaking of science fiction and the occult, kind of right on the tails of my video from a month ago talking about Francis Bacon and the New Atlantis, a buddy of mine shared with me the story called Somnium, which was by Johannes Kepler, and I had never heard of this either.
Poor Kepler thought that he himself had contributed inadvertently to his mother's arrest. It came about...
It's written... It's basically about traveling to the moon with the help of demons. And turns out Kepler's mom was a witch, and he spent many years trying to exonerate her because when you compare like the characters in this book with the real characters of himself and his mother, it's almost autobiographical. But yeah, wherever he got the idea from, it's a very peculiar concept to just kind of make up out of nowhere. So yeah, this is around the early 1600s as well. So it was around the same time as Bacon and all that. And after mentioning the demons taking you to the moon, I guess it's at this point where I kind of stop and hear myself talk and I go, yeah, this probably sounds like utter nonsense if you're not in a place of taking the spiritual realm seriously enough to think that maybe that's what's really driving so much of what's going on in the world behind the scenes. And the Bible tells us it is. And for me, like this whole cosmology thing, the most fascinating aspect about it is how it really kind of caused me to stop and think about, well, these are really big and interesting questions and debates, but really the existence of the spiritual realm, beyond just there being the creator and the creation, but this whole hierarchy of angelic and fallen angelic beings, these two hierarchies, and that they are active and involved in the world and have been throughout history. And the Bible speaks of this so plainly that if anything, yeah, it's this whole, every time now when I hear the same kind of dismissive attitude from Christians or pastors or teachers or whoever, but specifically from the Christian side that scoffs at conspiracy, whatever that means, when the Bible is describing things that kind of really go far beyond any human level conspiracy, as it were. And really, I mean, what does conspiracy mean? Hopefully it's becoming clearer and clearer that really all it really means it only really seems to apply to when you're talking about some sort of criminal collusion on the behalf of people in your own government or in corporations in your own country. This point now has been brought to such an extreme, insane level where, yeah, Russia's getting ready to do false flags. Russia's getting ready to do all kinds of things that were, conspiracy theory only yesterday. And nobody supposedly, like, what? Yeah. When I hear stuff like that on the mainstream news, I don't even know I don't even know what people are thinking when, like, you just wrote a 7-page PDF talking, scoffing at moon landings, but it's like, other governments, other leaders are capable of atrocious, horrific crimes against humanity, right? I mean, that's why we support all kinds of things to supposedly, defend democracy and fight totalitarianism and fight oppression and fight, but, how good is our track record on this side of whatever curtain still exists between Russia and the free world? But overall, so much is happening so fast, it is kind of hard to even keep up with it all and not just kind of lose your mind with all the switching back and forth and the constant recycling of old narratives mixed with new narratives and everything else. But, one thing I will say has become kind of clearer and clearer. I remember at the beginning, when people would ask you, well, why would they do that? Why would they fake? Why would all these countries all fake the same thing and not call each other out or not? What would be the point of it all? Why fake space? And in some ways, it's like a pretty good beginning answer, at least a partial answer, is just the overview effect. And there's a whole documentary basically talking about the overview effect and how, starting from that fateful day, Christmas Eve, I guess, Apollo 8 mission, when they turned around and looked at the Earth for the first time, and then, the moonrise photo and all that.
They didn't land, but they did circle the moon, and I was watching it on television, and at a certain point, one of the astronauts casually said, "We're going to turn the camera around and show you the Earth." And he did, and that was the first time I had ever seen the planet hanging in space like that, and it was profound.
I think that for me, like for many other people, it was quite a shock. I don't think any of us had any expectations about how it would give us such a different perspective. I think the focus had been, we're going to the stars, we're going to the other planets, and suddenly we look back at ourselves and it seems to imply a new kind of self-awareness.
One of the astronauts said, when we originally went to the moon, our total focus was on the moon. We weren't thinking about looking back at the Earth. But now that we've done it, that may well have been the most important reason we went.
He imagined a journey to the moon, with the space travelers standing on the lunar surface, looking up to see, rotating slowly above them, the lovely planet Earth.
Many of the great wisdom traditions of the Earth have pointed to what we're calling the overview effect. That is to say, they have realized this unity, this oneness of all life on Earth and of consciousness and awareness.
Within the Western tradition, I think it's quite new and quite shocking because there's been much more of a sense of separation. But if you look at other non-Western cultures, especially in Asia, the emphasis on those has always been on realization that the self and the world are not separate from each other, but that they're really interconnected. That the individual self and the species as a whole is a manifestation of the larger whole.
When I was above the space station, looking down at the space station, looking down at the, against the Earth, and seeing this, amazing accomplishment, I was thinking, wow, there was 15 nations that worked together to build this amazing orbital complex in space. And if we can, take these 15 nations and do this amazing accomplishment, imagine what we can do by working together, by setting aside our differences for a common goal to overcome some of the challenges facing our planet.
seeing the Earth was this profound, transformative experience, both for, first for the guys who went 250,000 miles, supposedly all the way to the moon, and then the people who were just a handful of miles up in the alleged space station, which is going to get retired soon. And we got the blue and yellow uniforms that were just because they had extra yellow fabric. I mean, my goodness. I was watching one from like a couple weeks ago. And they were talking to a bunch of school kids in Ohio, and it was like the same little song and dance spiel, answering the same questions they've answered 1,000 times since the 70s. Playing "Here's a Water Bubble." I don't think anybody did a somersault, but it was like, yeah, this show better be on its last legs. So yeah, maybe war, just like the space shuttle show was shut down right before Russia almost came out with their own space shuttles that looked pretty much exactly the same, right before the moon, kind of like the race to the moon was supposed to be all about getting there first so we could have a moon base, because the Russians were going to build a Russian moon base and we couldn't have that. And then we got there and planted a flag and drove a Jeep around, played some golf, and then forgot how to get there. We destroyed all the technology that allowed us to get there. It's a really difficult process to build it back again. Last night I was looking at some videos of this Galactic Star Cruiser hotel, this new Star Wars experience thing down in Florida. It opened like a month ago finally, I guess, but so while all this crazy stuff is going on in Ukraine and the Azov Battalion and all the deep fakery and the cyber warfare that's going to just knock out everything and nobody will know where it's coming from. In the meanwhile, for the past same month, here in America, Star Wars enthusiasts get to experience staying, for all intensive purposes, could be like, 20 stories underground, and they wouldn't care. Because there's no windows. You're essentially in this giant prison block type facility, but, it's cosplay, and it's kind of murder mystery dinner theater kind of element, but in a really sad, it's cringy on so many levels, and I could make fun of it all day, but the scary part is how it's all about, you get your little wristband when you check in, and that's how you access every door, every little interactive story element, and the droids and the AI system that's in your room, and you interact with it as part of the story. If I have to tell you what this is propaganda for, and what this is conditioning for, and celebrating and translating into things that go into everyone's home, to where we'll just eventually turn everyone's neighborhood into a giant FEMA camp theme park. I mean, it's nuts. Like, look at this place. Like, maybe the quarantine camps in Australia should have decorated with more of a Death Star theme, and people would have never wanted to leave. Subversion. This is some subversion right here. But there's been all kinds of subversion. Economically, the media, the government, the church. It's the world. Why do we ignore everything that the Bible says about how the world and the God of this world, the systems of this world, the kingdoms of this world, is trying to subvert the truth, subvert what God has said and shown in every way he can, from every direction he can. It's been two-way traffic on both sides of all kinds of seemingly simplistic, dichotomous narratives for a long time. That's kind of what he does. It's the whole Masonic black-white checkerboard kind of trick, I guess. I mean, how crazy is this when it's like, this doesn't look like progress to me. This looks terrifying and sad. It's kind of, I think, telling in a lot of ways, like how disconnected we are from so many basic realities of life as humans. And again, the last 2 years have displayed that on levels that I never would have thought possible. But in terms of how disconnected we are from the things that are really supposed to matter, the things that really just even keep us alive, that come from God, and all the junk that we make. And in some ways, space was just about making war cool again. The military-industrial complex and massive massive spending billions of dollars on building missiles and weapons. You got to get the public to buy into that in some way, unless you've gone the full-blown communist 1984 route and you just use slaves. But here in the free world, we use the free enterprise and cooperation between giant corporations and the government, and Disney to make it all magical and appealing and woven into the American story.
So, the process of demoralization could be stopped right here, both as an expert and as an impert. And that takes one step, one very important thing to do. You don't have to expel all the KGB agents from Washington, D.C. The most difficult and at the same time the simplest answer to the subversion is to start it here and even before, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. So, the ideas are moving society and keeping mankind as a society of human beings, intelligent, moral agents of God. The facts, the truth, the exact knowledge may not. All the sophisticated technology and computers will not prevent society from disintegrating and eventually dying out. Have you ever met a person who would sacrifice his life, freedom, for the truth like that? This is truth. I never met a person who said, this is truth and I'm ready to shoot me. To defend the truth. Right? But millions sacrifice their life, freedom, comfort, everything for things like God, like Jesus Christ. It's an honor. Some martyrs in the Soviet concentration camp died. And they died in peace, unlike those who shouted, "Long live Stalin," knowing perfectly well that he may not live long. Something which is not material moves society and helps it to survive. And the other way around, the moment we turn into 2 by 2 is 4 and make it a guiding principle of our life, our existence, we die. Even though this is true, and this we cannot prove, we only can feel and have faith in it. So the answer to ideological subversion, strangely enough, is very simple. You don't have to shoot people, you don't have to aim missiles and Pershings and cruise missiles at Andropov's headquarters. You simply have to have faith and prevent subversion. In other words, not to be a victim of subversion. Don't try to be a person who in judo is trying to smash your enemy and being caught by your hand. Don't strike like that. Strike with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. If you don't have that power, it's high time to develop it. And that's the only answer. That's it.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning with the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good.
The wheels within wheels, with eyes all around. Would you like to see the eyes and the wheels all around, and the eyes all over the wheels? I'll show you those eyes. Here are the wheels with the eyes. The stars, the hosts of heaven, God's creation, the ones, each star has its name, as it says in the scripture. God says, "I have named them all." These are the eyes. These are the eyes on the wheels. Our stars. I just can't help but to quote from Isaiah 40:26. "Lift up your eyes on high, and behold who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth." This is what people have been missing this whole time, and it's been right in front of our faces in the scripture. This is what God was showing Ezekiel. The wheels within the wheels are the belts that surround Earth. NASA calls them the Van Allen belts. These are the invisible belts of magnetic energy within the torus that keep everything in motion, everything moving like a fine-tuned clock. All the eyes that Ezekiel saw was the stars. All the stars are created by God. They are the luminaries. That is what makes up all the eyes that is being spoken of. What Ezekiel saw was the absolute pure beauty of our home that God created for us. This is what Satan wants you blinded to. This is the absolute magnificence that Satan doesn't want you to see. This is why they mockingly show you that image in Game of Thrones and other movies, the wheels within the wheels over the flat plain earth. They're showing you the truth right in front of your face, and they laugh because you don't understand and you don't see. This is the beauty. This is the sheer absolute beauty of the world that God created, and he called it good. Now that you have eyes to see and ears to hear, now let me tell you this. These wheels that we see, these bands that move like a clock, this is how the sun and the moon do what they do. This explains their movements. It's all about magnetic energy. It's all about the magnetic fields. This is how they're frictionless and how they move in perfect unison. And just as it states in the book of Enoch, through the movement of these wheels, we see how the sun and moon will go through their vaults and rise and return in different areas. This is what the globe has blinded people to, the absolute truth of what God said all along. It has been here the whole time in the scriptures. Instead, we choose to listen to NASA. Instead, we choose to listen to the idiot box. Instead, we choose to listen to scientists, and we heap amongst ourselves teachers that teach us absolute lies to keep us in the dark. When God's been saying the whole time, just look up. Look up at what surrounds you. I made this for you. That's all God wanted to say. Just take a look. I'm here. I am right above you. You can take comfort knowing that when you step outside and gaze up into that starry wonder of God's creation, just know that our Father in heaven is sitting up there right now, staring down at all of us, watching our every move. He knows everything that's going on down here. He has not missed anything. And just know and be comforted by the fact that our Father is right there, and He's been there this whole time. This is something that the world and NASA and the scientists can never take from us, ever. Even the lying powers and signs of Satan that are coming, the lies of the fallen angels and the lies of the world that are going to be ever increasing, will still not rob this from my heart. And they will never rob from me my faith in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
What are you doing with the rest of your life?
Catching up on some me time, find God.
My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. Bless His name. My soul, it loves Jesus. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yeah. My soul, my soul. Over in the midnight hour, my soul, He speaks to my soul, tells me everything is gonna be all right. My soul, it loves Jesus. I'm so glad my soul loves Jesus.